fans of music, new school, old school, whatever school. My name is SuperPat98, and I'm going to be reviewing every single Kiss album, all the way from the very beginning, all the way to Monster, in honor of Kiss's 50th anniversary, to the hottest band in the land, Kiss. As you can see, I'm all decked out for Kiss. I got my Kiss memorabilia around me, and I'm going to be reviewing every album, all the songs, every song on every album, and all the secrets and the mysteries on all the album covers. And I'm going to tell you all these things that you never really thought about with Kiss. My own personal point of view. So, why not start from the very beginning? With 1974's Kiss.
Their latest album, which I'm going to show the camera right here. But before we see them perform, I want you to meet one of the members of this act close up.
Okay, so here we have it, guys. You wanted the best, you got the best. I love the very first album cover. Ace spray painted his hair silver on this cover, and I think that's a really cool image. And I really wish he would have kept it like that, like throughout his whole character. Like every time you saw him, his hair would be silver. That would be so cool. Another thing is I noticed something kind of strange going on with Ace's necklace there. On the original album cover, now it's like black and has like a red stripe on it. And I don't know what that's about, because I see other production photographs of this album cover and his necklace looks like silver in the middle. And I don't know if that's a Mandela effect or if it's just something I'm overthinking. But in some shots of the necklace and other photographs, it looks silver in the middle. But for some reason on the fucking cover, it's black and has that red stripe.
Here's another fact. This is what I wore on the first album cover. Get a close-up
Yeah,
of
I got a
that.
close-up on that thing.
I figured I'd wear it this week for good luck.
Really?
Yes.
Wow, that's awesome, man.
This is it.
Beethoven's Fifth.
Gene. Now, you can tell from Gene's expression on the first album that they're trying to tell you that this is like shock rock. Or like glam rock. Or like glam metal. You know, like there's a lot of people that don't consider Kiss heavy metal, but I actually consider Kiss metal music. They're not as heavy as other metal bands, but their costumes and just everything about them, like the stage show and everything, it's very metal. I mean, you could say, I guess they're just a regular rock band that has metal elements, but why not just call them a certain type of metal band? It all makes sense. Underneath Gene's neck, it looks like something Maud or one of the Golden Girls would wear. The makeup around Gene's eyes looks different here than it is when it was finalized. Like, it looks bigger around his eyes in the first album cover. I love Peter Criss. He's my favorite member of Kiss.
Yeah, I believe it. No. No, I do. I think it.
I actually love his makeup on the first album cover. I know it's not the finalized version, and a lot of people make fun of it, and...
Tell me about it!
Sure. I mean, you can laugh at it when you first see it, but after a while it like grows on you, because here he kind of looks like a real fierce cat. That makeup is a lot more elaborate than all these other guys. I heard someone else did Peter Criss's makeup on the first album cover. Even at this time, he normally wore his makeup like he always had it. But I just think it's really neat and really cool that this is like the original, you can call it, at least, the original Catman makeup. So I love the fact that it's actually on the cover. Paul pretty much looks the same here. Not much to say about him.
We're flesh and blood. I think we represent freedom.
The rhinestones, very cool looking. You know, it's like they're coming out of the shadows. Right at you. Here you have the back cover, and the sparkles here are an indication of how they are going to become stars. It's all like symbolic here. Or at least their destiny to become rock stars. Here I have the first Kiss album on CD, and here's the first Beatles album. Now, what I find fascinating is that they did a lot of things to market themselves after the Beatles, because In the 60s, there was Beatlemania, and in the 70s, there was KISSTERIA. And I think the first album cover of Kiss was purposely made to look like the first Beatles album cover. You got the four heads, they got the black shadow in the background, and they really stick out to you. I think it's all on purpose, you know. Plus, you got two Pauls. This video is about Kiss, but I just thought I should briefly mention, just in case someone corrects me. In the United States, the first Beatles album was Introducing the Beatles. Then the second album was With the Beatles in the United States, I think. While as in Great Britain, the first Beatles album was this, and it was called Meet the Beatles. Doesn't matter, though. It's pretty much like the first Beatle album. So I just think that they really did it on purpose to match up with the Beatles. And what I find fascinating is that the Beatles were around in the late 50s, and they kept changing their name and band members and all that, and they weren't really finalized as the real as what the Beatles became until 1962, where they like perfected their haircuts and their costume and their style and all that. And then Kiss was founded in basically 1972. So 1962, 1972 with Kiss. See, it's all like meant to align together like symmetry and from a marketing perspective. And just like how the Beatles kept getting bigger and bigger as the decade went on, so did Kiss. The hype of Beatlemania was in 1964, 1965, and you know, the first Kiss album was in 1974, and they were trying to get really big by the first album, which really didn't happen until Alive came out. But that's what I think is going on here with the design of the very first Kiss album. I think it's really cool to look at both of them and how they just align their heads. You know, one head is down, which is Ringo, one head is down, which is Gene. Here they are side by side once again. Very cool comparison with both of them. Okay, so let's check out the songs.
Maestro.
Great album. Strutter. Really fast paced, really fun, really catchy. Really is a great song to kick off the first album. Just to really get any person who hasn't listened to Kiss to really just throw them in there and get them ready to rock and roll all night and party every day. Number 2, Nothing to Lose. Very catchy song. I think the version on Alive is amazing. Compared to the first Kiss Alive, looking back at the versions of the songs, the original versions of the songs on the first album, they're quite tinny sounding. I mean, they're a lot. They're slower. They're like lighter, but I still love the original versions because it's the original. And the Kiss Alive album just improved all those songs. But we're not here to talk about Kiss Alive anyway. Nothing to Lose, great song. Firehouse. I don't know if it's underrated nowadays, but I actually love Firehouse. It's one of my favorite Kiss songs. I mean, everything about it is just so cool and sleazy, and it's just awesome. Oh, by the way, I have this Kiss book here, which is pretty cool. Nothing to Lose. Just thought I should mention it in this video because we just talked about Nothing to Lose. So why is Peter Criss my favorite member of Kiss? Because I think he's underrated. I love his graspy voice. You know, a lot of people talk about how Paul and Gene contributed so much to the band and Ace and Peter didn't. But a lot of us Kiss fans, Kiss Army, know that that's not really true. Ace was the lead guitarist. He shredded the guitar in every damn song. Peter's graspy voice was great. And he was also Peter was on a lot of Kiss songs on the first 3 Kiss albums before Gene and Paul became, you know, control freaks and despise them. Like Peter's graspy voice on Nothing to Lose is great. And I just love Peter's voice. And Peter was a good drummer. He wasn't a great drummer, but he was a very good drummer. You can especially notice that on most of the early Kiss material. Cold Gin is also one of my favorite Kiss songs. And I just love the bass by Gene. Like, Gene is an underrated bassist in rock and roll. Funny story, because I loved Cold Gin, and when I was first getting into Kiss, I wanted to try Cold Gin so badly because I love that song, and that song glorifies gin, and it makes it seem like, oh, gin is so good. That's like the drink to live for. Gotta leave to get another quart, all that stuff, all the lyrics. And I tried it at a bar and I hated it at the time, which is pretty funny. But if I tried it now that I'm older, I might actually like gin. Kiss now makes some alcohol drinks named after songs, which is kind of funny because on the first album you have Cold Gin. Number 5, Let Me Know. Very good song, very catchy. So you got 5 classics there. Kissin' Time is a controversial Kiss song for many because some people don't like it, and the band was forced to do it because they were doing this kissing contest promotion to promote Kiss, which really had nothing to do with Kiss. But in my opinion, I actually really like Kissin' Time. I think it's good. You know, Kiss made it work. Like, even though it's a song they didn't want to do, if it's the first album, they worked hard to make it as good as they could, even though it doesn't have the vibe as the other Kiss songs. I think it's really catchy, and I don't mind that it's corny. I like the song. Deuce is one of the greatest Kiss songs. Deuce is probably one of the greatest songs of all time, pretty much. Ace Frehley basically wrote the song Deuce, and he was supposed to sing on the song Deuce, but he was too shy, so Gene basically sang in the song. But it was actually written by Ace. Deuce is just so exciting, and I love how sleazy it is. Something very special, I think, and it's just lasted the test of time. Like, Deuce is probably the best song on the first album. Number 8, Love Theme from Kiss. Once again, it's kind of like Kissin' Time. I like Love Theme from Kiss. It's another song that people don't like, but I like it. I think it's catchy. You know, like, these songs grow on you over time, like the more you listen to the albums, and some don't, but I think it's a really fun instrumental track that you could practice playing rock and roll on your guitar with. 100,000 Years is great. You barely see the band play it live these days. Great song. I love how it's song 9. Number 10, Black Diamond. I love Black Diamond. It's one of my favorite Kiss songs. I think everybody who's a Kiss fan loves Black Diamond. So Deuce and Black Diamond and Firehouse, in my opinion, I think those are the 3 best. Yes, I love Cold Gin, and I guess I would put that as a 4th, but, you know, when I first got into Kiss, I didn't understand some of the lyrics, so I had no idea that Black Diamond was about like a prostitute and stuff. Kiss made this movie with Scooby-Doo. In the movie, the Black Diamond is in the movie, so it's like they changed the meaning of the song for the Scooby-Doo movie because it's like, well, Scooby-Doo is also for kids, which I think is really cool if they did that. And I actually wish that's what the song Black Diamond was about. Even though a song about a prostitute is a more powerful song, there's something really cool about a physical black diamond. And it does make you think of Kiss, because Kiss is very, you know, glam rock. So thinking of diamonds, you know, and all that, I think fits Kiss very well. And the color black and everything. I love the first Kiss album. The first Kiss album is one of the all-time classic rock albums. And it's one of the greatest introduction albums of any band. Now, even though I love these songs, I do think that Kiss overplays them in their live concerts. Like, we'll talk about that later on as we go through the decades of Kiss, but just in my opinion, when they started, you know, after the first 3 or 4 years of the reunion, I just don't know why they couldn't play like all the songs from the 70s when they were doing that. Why can't they play Lady Driver, Hooligan, Plaster Caster, Hotter Than Hell? Why can't they play all those kind of songs? Like, they overplay the first album too much in their live concerts, like way too much. It doesn't ruin the original songs because you can always go back to these, but it does get annoying. Like when they did the reunion and stuff, wasn't that the whole point, to honor all of the 70s version of Kiss? So how come you're not playing all the songs from the 70s era? And like, again, just stuff from Rock and Roll Over and Love Gun, Hotter Than Hell. Like, how come you can't play Going Blind? The reunion tour was a great way for new Kiss fans to experience some 70s Kiss songs that weren't hit songs, and maybe they would like them. And plus, it would give the old fans a chance to reminisce again about songs that maybe they didn't look at as much or weren't as popular back in the 70s. But for some fucking reason, they just kept playing the same songs over and over again, and it just became way too redundant. And I don't think redundance is really what Kiss ultimately is all about. I mean, they did always kind of change their costumes per album. They tried different things. Like, it always wasn't just the same exact thing over and over and over and over and over and over and over. I think there's more to Kiss. I think that there is dimension to Kiss. You know, not everything should be the same costume and the same songs over and over and over and over and over again. They're an innovative band. They always try to stand out and, you know, get attention and do different things. So what the fuck's that all about? Damn you, Paul and Gene. I hope you guys like this video, members of the Kiss Army. And if you're just a fan of old school music in general, I hope you enjoyed what I said. Let me know what you think in the comments. And check in with me next time, because I'm going to be taking a look at my favorite Kiss album of all time, Hotter Than Hell.